Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to episode 68 of the Dear Herbalist podcast, How to Plan, Organize, and Perfect Your Herbal Formulations. If you are new to the podcast, you are most welcome. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so very much. And let me stop for a moment and really tell you, as my listeners, I have been reading you guys' comments, and I thank you so very much for your encouragement, for your support, for sharing your stories, for asking questions. I really do appreciate it. I love engaging with each and every one of you. And it does my heart glad to read and say, hey, you know what you're doing is helping me. Thank you so much. That really just warms my heart, makes me all gooey inside. So thank you. You thanking me, but thank you. Because I definitely appreciate each and every last one of you. You don't have to sit here and listen, but you do, and you like, and you share, and you subscribe, and I thank you for that. So I wanted to take a little moment out to say that to each and every one of you. Thank you so very much. I want to give a shout out to my mother, who has listened to every single one of my podcasts. She stays committed to the cause. So Mom, I know you're listening. I love you, and I appreciate you so much for your support. Thank you for doing all you do. I appreciate you. So let's get into tonight's topic: how to plan, organize, and perfect your herbal formulation. Now, there are some people out there that love organized chaos, right? And in certain instances, I do too. I don't mind, a little chaos and let me try to figure it out and all that. But when it comes to formulation, I like to be a little more organized. I like to know about the chemical properties of the plant. I'd like to know more about the solvents I'm using. I'd like to know more about heat and temperature and dehydration. I mean, there's just so much to know. I'd like to know about the condition I'm trying to address and all the elements of that. So there's a lot to know, and you want to stay organized. So I want to talk tonight how you should, or just give you really some tips and have a conversation around how to approach starting your herbal formulation. Whether you're a beginner, looking to refine your skills, or whether you're a seasoned person who, but there may be some tips and things that I could share that you may not have heard before. So I'm going to guide you through 12 steps to create a balanced and effective herbal remedy. As always, have your paper and your pens out, because I got some gems for you tonight. And if you are listening to me while you are driving, or you are cooking, or, preparing snacks for your kids, however you're listening to me, make sure you're safe. So if you can't grab a pen and a pencil, please catch me on the replay, and reach out to me too. You can always shoot me an email at thedemystifiedherbalist@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to me at the Demystified Herbalist on all of my social media sites if you have any questions. But in the meantime, if you're able to sit and listen, I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet, but I want to give you 12 steps to create a balanced and effective herbal remedy, how you should plan and organize all this. Step number 1, you want to define your objective. So what do you want your formulation to achieve? Is this a stress relief formulation? Are you trying to support your immune system? Are you trying to boost your immune system? Are you trying to reduce inflammation? Are you trying to help heal an injury? What is it that you want your formulation to achieve? The next thing is, who is this formulation for? And the reason why this is important is because there's different requirements for adults than there are for children. And even within the adult category, people within a certain age versus seniors, there's different considerations that have to be taken into consideration, depending on who the formulation is for. So you don't want to use high dosages of certain things if you have children, or if you have somebody that's immunocompromised, you don't want to use certain things. You want to be very, very careful. And so knowing who your target audience is, this is very important. But to keep you focused, okay, step 1, keeping you focused, define your objective. What do you want your formulation to achieve? Step number 2, once you have determined what you want it to achieve and who it's for, now you can start to research and select herbs. So you want to choose herbs that are known for their effectiveness in addressing your specific needs. And then consider some combinations. So select herbs that will work well together as well as enhance each other's effects. Step number 3, you want to understand the concept of ADME. And I know you're like, what is ADME? ADME is absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. By understanding ADME, this helps you as an herbalist to create a more effective formula by predicting how your herbs will interact with the body and each other. Because a lot of times, if you don't have the correct dosage, even, let's say you have a small little amount, and by the time you ingest it, it just gets destroyed and metabolized really quickly in your gut. Well, it's not going to get to anywhere else in the body because it's gone. So you want to know, okay, this is the herbs that I'm looking at. Now I need to take in consideration, how will these herbs interact with the body? So let's look at, for each herb, absorption. Number 1, that's A, absorption. How well the herb's active compounds are absorbed into your body. Number 2 is D, distribution. How the compounds spread and where they concentrate. So if you know that you need your herbs to concentrate more in the kidneys area, then you want to make sure that the herbs you selected, that is one of those characteristics as far as distribution, they will concentrate or pool within those kidneys. The third thing, which is M, metabolism, how the body processes and breaks down the herb's compounds. That's important. And then the last is E, excretion. How will the body eliminate the compounds? Because with some compounds and with some, physical situations, you want to make sure that the herb, it kind of gets in there, does what it needs to do, and it's eliminated officially. It doesn't sit in there longer than it needs to. So you have to understand these concepts when it comes to the herbs that you are studying. Now, step number 4. Apply the Chief Deputy Minister model. Now, this model is a framework for herbal formulation that includes a chief herb, which addresses the main health concern. Then you have the deputy herbs that support the chief, and then you have the assistant herbs that provide additional benefits. It kind of helps make the formulation more synergistic. This model actually will help you as an herbalist create a balanced and effective remedy by ensuring that each herb works together, targeting specific health issues while maintaining overall harmony within your formula. Now, you don't have to use all of these. You may just need a deputy. You just may need a chief and a deputy, or you may need a chief, deputy, and one assistant. You don't have to use them all, but you can use this as a guide. This is a model from traditional Chinese medicine. I like to use it. It's a very systematic way to understand how you need to create and set up your formulations. So this is the reason why I'm giving it to you. I love the system that it brings. It really helps keep things simple for me rather than having to sit back and have a myriad of other different frameworks. This framework is simple and it's easy to understand. So let's look at the herbs in a little bit more detail. So I talked to you already about the chief herb. This is the king. This is what this is the primary herb that addresses the main concern. So in a stress formulation, you would have ashwagandha as the chief herb, because this is the primary herb that's going to address that main concern. It targets the main concern first. Then you have the deputy herb. These are the herbs that support and enhance the chief's herb's effects. So let's say in that same formulation, you're going to combine ashwagandha with holy basil. And then you have your minister herbs. These are the supporting herbs. So these are additional herbs that you'll add to your formulation that will complement and balance your formula. So let's say to that, you're going to add licorice root to kind of harmonize all the ashwagandha and the holy basil and kind of give, round out your formula. Then also they have the assistant herbs that I talked about. These are called the envoys. These are herbs that direct the formula to specific body areas, or they mitigate potential side effects, which is very important. So if you want to, you can create a chart, or you can write it down, a formulation chart: chief herb, deputy herb, minister herb, assistant herbs. And again, you may not use all of these. You may only need a chief herb and a deputy herb. I have some formulations where I have more than 2 or more than 3 herbs. So it'll help me be able to organize it a little better. And I may have a chief herb, a deputy herb, and 3 ministers. So it's just all in how your formulation is structured. So number 5, let's go to step number 5. You want to consider the herb ratios. So you want to decide how much of each herb. Now that you know what you're going to use, you know who's going to be ordered where. Now you need to decide how much of each herb to use based on their strength and desired effects. And you want to adjust your ratios and modify accordingly to the potency of each herb. Because again, if one is, let's say if your assistants are stronger than your chief herb, then you can almost imagine what's going to happen with that formulation. Unintended effects, right? So you're like, okay, well, I hear a lot about ratios and all that stuff, but what are some basic guidelines? So let me give you some basic common herb ratios. So for your formulation overall, your primary chief herb should be about 50 to 60% of your formula. Your secondary deputy herb should be about 20 to 30% each. So if you have up to 2 herbs in this category, no more than about 20 to 30% of each herb. Your supportive or assistant herbs should be about 10 to 15% each. And this could be anywhere from 1 to 3 herbs. If you have a harmonizing or the envoys, like I talked about, that should be about 5 to 10% of your formula. And if you have any strong herbs or spices, that should be between 1 to 5% of your formula. And if you have any aromatic or flavoring herbs such as mint, lemon balm, let's just say you want to make your formulation taste a little better, because that matters, right? Especially if you have clients, you want to make sure they're compliant. So you want to make something that, it's not going to taste like perfect, but it's palatable. Right? So if you have any aromatic or flavoring type herbs, you want to keep those to around 2 to 5% of your formula. So that is the herb ratios for step 5. Let's move on to step 6. You want to choose the right delivery method. This is very, very, very important. And yes, I'm talking very systematically because I'm banging on my knee at the same time. Choosing the right delivery method for herbal formulation is very important because it affects absorption. It affects patient compliance. It affects your targeted action. Different forms like tinctures, capsules, or teas influence how quickly and effectively the body uses the herbs. Also, the chosen method can enhance taste, can ensure precise dosing, and cater to specific health needs, ultimately improving the overall effectiveness of your remedy. So with form selection, you want to decide on the best form for your formulation. Is it a tincture? Is it a tea? Is it a capsule? Capsules tend to be more for convenience. Syrups tend to be created more for taste. Or topical applications, they tend to be for more localized issues. So if you have a salve that's created to address wounds, you may want to do a salve and create your formulation based on that. So make sure that you choose the right delivery method, and it all goes back to your goals. It all goes back to your objectives in terms of how you're going to actually do that. Step 7, ensure safety and quality. So using high quality herbs, you want to try to use fresh and sustainably sourced herbs. You want to try, if you can, to go forage and pick some of your own herbs. This works out even better. So do that. Check interactions to ensure that there are no negative interactions between herbs with people that might be taking psychotropic medications or pharmaceutical medications of any kind. Check that. So you want to ensure safety and quality at all costs, no matter what the case, whether they have pharmaceutical drugs or anything or not. Always ensure that there are no negative interactions. So even between herbs. All right. Step number 8. Consider dosage. So determining dosage is very important. You want to set the right dosage based on, number 1, the herb's potency, how you're delivering the herb, meaning is it a tincture, tea, syrup, that type of thing, and the person's individual needs. So when considering dosage, you want to take account for factors such as age, weight, and health conditions. Now, some general dosing guidelines. So when it comes to dosing, this is where some people tend to get hung up at. So I'm going to give you some general dosing guidelines. Okay, these are very general. You don't have to use them verbatim. You can, adjust as needed. So let me give you some key rules about herbal dosage. When it comes to, let's say, acute versus chronic dosing, if there's an acute issue, meaning it's a stronger situation for a shorter period of time, okay, you want to consider higher doses used for shorter periods of time to address any type of acute condition. For chronic conditions, meaning that the person's a little weaker, and this is going on for a longer period of time, you want to use lower doses used for an extended period of time to support overall health, as well as to manage and address those type of chronic conditions. So if it's acute, higher dose, shorter period of time. If it's a chronic issue, a lower dose for a longer period of time. Just for some side notes. Let's talk about acute dosing guidelines. Let's say you're going to do a tincture. So you can do up to 40 mLs per day, divided into smaller doses that could be taken more frequently. So you can do like 2.5 mLs every 2 hours, however you want to dose that. Let's say you may want to do capsules or powders. Then you could do about up to 20 grams per day, using whichever type of formulation for a maximum of 14 days. You don't want your herbal formulations for acute dosing to be for long term. Remember, higher doses, shorter period of time for acute issues. So you don't want to be taking those higher doses for a long period of time. That's a no-no. Now, for chronic dosing guidelines, let's say if you're going to do a tincture, you can do about 20 mLs per day, typically divided into 3 or 4 doses. If you're going to do capsules or powders, up to 6 grams per day. And remember that this particular dose for either with the capsules, powders, or tinctures can be used long-term for preventative or supportive purposes. Why? Because the dosages are low enough, but yet still strong enough to be able to have the desired effect. Another thing you want to look at is individualization, meaning that dosage should be adjusted based on factors like age, weight, health status, and sensitivity. We're not all the same height. We're not all the same weight. We're not all the same age. We don't all have the same health conditions, and we don't all have the same sensitivities. So we have to take that into consideration. So what I would recommend is to start with lower doses and then gradually increase as you need them. Just my little tidbit of advice. Next thing you want to consider as far as dosage is your potency. More potent herbs generally require lower doses, and milder herbs may be used in higher doses. So those are your potency considerations. So the next thing you need to consider as far as dosages are concerned is the form of preparation. So there are many different forms that you can use for your formulation, or you can use to administer your formulation. And that could be tinctures, capsules, teas, syrups. All of these different forms may have different dosage recommendations. So be aware of that, as well as combination formulas. When using multiple herbs, you can adjust individual herb doses to stay within overall dosage guidelines. So that's a tidbit. Step 8 on dosages. Let's move to step 9. You got your testing, you got your herbs, you know what it's going to be used for, you know who it's going to be used for. You done went through all the steps. Now you're at the test and refine step number 9. Number 1, start small. Begin with a small batch for testing. I made the mistake of getting overly excited in the beginning when I first started out, and I just threw a whole bunch of herbs in, and I was like, I'm going to make me something really great. I did a whole big batch of it, and it was terrible. Herbs wasted, money wasted, and I do not like wasting money. But it happened because I got overzealous, and I was just like, I'm just going to throw everything into a batch. This says anti-inflammatory, and these 12 other herbs say anti-inflammatory, so I'm throwing them all in here to see what's going to happen. Well, it was utter waste of time and money. So step 9, test and refine. So start small, begin with a small batch so that you can test it. The other thing is you want to collect feedback. So if you're using it yourself or if you're giving it to someone else, observe how well the formulation works. And then, of course, talk to the people that you've given it to and get their opinion on it. Did it work? Was it gross? Did it have you run into the toilet? What type of feedback are you going to get? That's what you need to write down. And then the other thing is, when I talk about refining, you want to adjust accordingly. So be flexible and understand that you may have to modify your formula based on the results and feedback. So let's say if you have too much of a laxative herb in there and they are sitting on the toilet all day and they're like, look, I got a day job. I can't sit on the toilet all day. Okay. Can't do it. So you got to give me something where it's like time release or something to where I don't have to go run into the bathroom, or I'm sitting on a Zoom call, and they're like, are you in the bathroom? Like, nah, no. So modify your formula and, based on your feedback and the results and all that kind of stuff. And that will help. Let's go to step number 10. Consider the taste and palatability. This is very important. You want to balance your flavors. So mix strong tasting herbs with more pleasant ones. If you're going to use any type of enhancer, let's say natural sweeteners or natural flavor enhancers, you can use them, but make sure that you understand they could impact, your formulation. So know that in advance. If you say, okay, yes, you can drink my tea and you can add honey, make sure you understand how honey is going to, either alter your formulation, enhance it. You just never know. Just make sure you're aware of that. And again, if you can mix stronger tasting herbs with more pleasant ones, then that will help you be more apt to want to take it. Or if you're recommending it for someone else or creating it for someone else, they're more apt to take it and comply and be great with it and not, like, oh my God, I drunk it. It was like drinking gasoline. I will never drink it again. You don't want that. Step number 11, evaluate effectiveness. At this step, you want to monitor the results, track how well your formulation is working over time. Encourage someone, if you're actually asking them to use it, to share their experiences and give feedback if there's any changes in the formula that they may have noticed after using the formula. All of this information is very important when it comes to your formulation. All of it. And then, of course, adjust as needed. So be open-minded to making changes based on the results that people are getting. If it's working too well, too fast, too soon, too much, or whatever, and you need to adjust, then do that. But evaluate the effectiveness. This is a key step in the total process of formulation because it lets you know that what you're doing is working, or it lets you know that you may need to tweak it because it's not working. But either way, you have some data now. Whereas before you were just kind of guessing, or we'll try it out, or I may try it on the dog and see what happens to him. If Ruffy ends up having to, go to the hospital, get his leg twisted back around because of something I done came up with and it then, locked up his whole body. No, I'm just joking. I went down a side trail with that. But now you have data. Now you say you can have and even a handful of people to where when other people are asking you, how does this work? Do you know? Well, yes, I've actually done, a group study, or I've actually had several people try my product and this is what they're saying about it. So use the data because that will help you. And with herbal medicine, data is very important, especially to people that aren't 100% convinced that herbs can actually benefit them and help them. Data is key. All right, step number 12. And the last step, document your process. Write down the key details of your formulation, including the herbs, what it's for, whose it's for, ratios, and methods. Now, what I would also probably add as a step 1B, maybe if I could go back, I would probably add a complete understanding of the patterns of the dis-ease or the disorder that you're trying to address. So that's also important because it will help your formulation as well. So having a clear understanding, not only of what it is that you want to do, but what is really going on with the body. So I would say that as a 1B. I wanted to add that in really quickly. And then, of course, while you're documenting your process, note any changes, record any modifications that you've had to do, and write down why you had to make those modifications. Like I said before, maybe somebody had to run to the toilet, or maybe because it caused cramps, bloating, somebody's eye to twitch, whatever it is. If you had to modify for whatever reason, or it was a sleepy aid and they just went to sleep and, didn't wake up for hours later, whatever the changes were, make sure that you record and document your process. Trust me, you will enjoy it. Now, let me give you a few key considerations before we end tonight. Number one, pattern identification. This is one of the things I spoke about. If I wanted to add a 1B, that I would do that. So you want to identify the specific health need or imbalance. And please make sure that you have correctly identified, because if you have not correctly identified what the issue is, and that's another podcast, but if you have not correctly identified what the issue is, that's going to throw everything else off up under it. Because you may have went through all this time, through all these steps to formulate something that is not addressing what the root issue is. And if I could say anything as far as understanding what's going on, you always want to address the root. Address the root. Somebody's got a sniffy nose, stuffy nose, or watery eyes. These are symptoms. So you want to know what is going on in the body to cause these symptoms. But you don't want to focus on the symptoms. You want to use them as a guide to understanding what's going on inside the body. But what's going on inside the body is what you need to focus on. And that is the root issue. So understand the specific health need or imbalance. That's one of the considerations. The other thing is herb interaction. So you want to use principles like mutual reinforcement or mutual assistance to ensure that the herbs work well together. How are these herbs working well together? Are they helping each other? Are they antagonizing each other? These are the things that you need to know. Energetic is another key consideration in formulation. So matching the herb's properties to the individual's needs. So if, let's say, a person has a cold or something like that, you can use warming herbs to address the cold conditions. And then another key consideration is bioavailability. So you want to consider factors that may enhance or inhibit the absorption of the active compounds in your formulation. So I'm going to talk to you really quickly about those. And these are factors that may either enhance or inhibit the absorption of active compounds in your formulation. Number one is solubility. How well the herbal ingredients dissolve in your stomach. Okay, this affects how the herb actually will get absorbed. Number two, membrane permeability. So how easily the ingredients can pass through your cell wall, right, and enter into your bloodstream. Number three is your formulation method. So there's different ways of preparing herbs, like using tiny particles, which can help the body absorb them better. You just kind of have to play with it. The other thing is particle size. So smaller pieces of herbs can be absorbed more easily than larger ones because they have a bigger surface area. And that really depends on how you are administering your herbal formulation and what form you're actually giving it in. The other thing is food interactions. So eating certain foods can either help or hinder how well the herb ingredients are absorbed. Know that. Know the physiological factors. So everybody's body is different. And things like stomach acidity, how fast food moves through the digestive tract, all of these things can actually affect how your herbal formulation gets absorbed. Another thing is chemical modifications. So changing the structure of your herbal ingredients can make them easier for the body to absorb. And then the last thing is the use of bioenhancers. So some ingredients can help the body absorb other ingredients better when they are combined. And a true example of this is turmeric and black pepper. So turmeric in itself is great. It's anti-inflammatory. It's amazing. But when you add black pepper to it, it really activates in the body and does some amazing things. So turmeric and black pepper. If you are eating turmeric or you're drinking turmeric, put a little bit of black pepper in there. Kind of help enhance it and make it all yummy. All right. So in this episode tonight, we have explored the essential tips on planning, organizing, and perfecting your herbal formulation. I've talked about defining your objectives, understanding ADME to apply the chief deputy minister model, and considering your herbal ratios. Now, I have covered probably the gamut of it all. Remember, effective formulation blends science with creativity. So keep experimenting, document your processes, and stay open to learning. And if you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social media platforms at The Demystified Herbalist. And until next time, family, I'm out.